Not sure if you have seen the latest news, but the chances of a Fed rate cut in September, as of this morning, are 99.9%. I have been doing this for a long time, the better part of 3 decades, and I do not recall a time in history where we are 4 weeks away from a Fed meeting and the odds of a rate cut are 99.9%. That is striking. What that tells me is the market basically looks at either June or July pause as a mistake. Where I think it gets interesting from here is there's still a 0% chance of a 50 basis point cut. And if you've been watching my channel for about 2 weeks now, you know that I called for a 50 basis point cut by September, either an emergency cut in August or a 50 basis point cut in September. As of this morning, there is still a 0% chance of a 50 basis point cut. That said, we are starting to hear the rumblings of people talking about a 50. Scott Bessent, the Fed should think about a 50 basis point cut in September. The Fed should have cut in June if they were given accurate data. Again, what I think Scott Bessent is saying, and many others who I believe will start talking about 50, is that the Fed was wrong to pause in July. So the reason that a 50 would come in September really is a makeup. And again, the Fed could lean on the facts that the data they were given was wrong. They made a bad decision on bad data. So going 50, again, still a 0% chance, but I, as always, will not change my opinion and see where this goes. So again, the odds of a September rate cut are now 99.9, which is shocking. It's still 4 or 5 weeks away. October is over 63%, which means a second. And right now, December even is above 50% at 52%. So the market, the Fed Watch tool, which you can just Google and look yourself, is calling for 3 rate cuts. Don't forget that JP Morgan yesterday said we're getting 4 rate cuts, which means either A, we get an emergency cut, or B, one of the meetings left this year will be a double, which I think is pretty interesting. I want to give a shout out to Danielle DiMartino Booth. Danielle DiMartino Booth. I follow her on X or Twitter. She put out a tweet this morning, which I have not done the math, but I believe she is accurate. And again, Danielle doesn't mess around. She's very good at what she does. She said, and this is amazing, this is why, if you're paying attention, a 50 could happen. What Danielle's about to highlight for you. Right now, you are hearing people talk about how could they cut when core inflation is rising and core inflation is 3.1%. Well, first off, don't forget what I've been telling you for 6 months. We had a bad trend. We had the base effect that guaranteed both July and August would go up. It was just math. I pointed at it 6 months ago that this would be a problem and people would be saying inflation is starting again, where it was just math. This is more important. This is more subtle. This is a nuance that Danielle DiMartino Booth deserves full credit for. And here we go. 54% of the core CPI increase, so more than half, is tied to shelter. So again, CPI core, let's say it went up 0.3. In reality, it went up less than 0.15, because you and I both know that shelter inflation is not increasing 6% a year or 4% a year or even 3% a year. We have been talking for quite some time now that shelter rent, all of that is flat to down. The fact that shelter is just another government statistic that is out of whack, out of line, and out of date means that if you step back and look at the bigger picture, inflation is not the scary thing It is. In fact, shelter is deflating, but it is deflating very slowly. Shelter deflating, as I've talked about several times recently, is going to be a tailwind pushing inflation lower. Now, where the last 2 months in the base effect has been a problem, the next 4 months, the base effect will also be a wind at our back. It will not be a negative 0.1 and a 0. They will be 0.3, 0.3, 0.4. So again, the compares get easier and inflation will look to be going down. Again, the base effect has a lot to do with this. So again, shout out Danielle for pointing out the fact that 54% of core inflation in the latest period was shelter. And as we've talked about a lot, shelter inflation is at best over-indexed currently. We did get some more Fed speakers, and let's go to the big hawk in the room. I want to crown Fed President Schmid as a big old hawk. He does not want to cut. He said so many things. I noted a couple. Two. I noted two things. I see no possibility that tariff impact will be known over the next few months. Again, you hear a lot of Fed presidents talking about needing more data. They get several more readings before September. But Schmid's basically like, hold my beer. I am not going to be ready to cut for months. So again, you could call him a hawk. Also, he says, you can include me in the no-cut camp. It's pretty clearly a hawk. I will modify my views if and only if demand diminishes. Interesting. Fed President Barkin saying the fog is lifting as the tax bill is passed and tariff deals getting done. It's interesting when you think about what he was referring to there, the fog is lifting. I think a lot of people, probably rightly so, think consumer. Folks, I don't think it's about the consumer. I think what we are really stuck at is businesses. What is small and medium-sized businesses doing? You know, you and I both know they've been reluctant to hire and frankly reluctant to fire. If the fog is lifting, are we going to get expansions in hiring and investment? I don't know. That is something that we need to watch. What else? Barkin also said inflation will be more moderate than people think. Again, Fed President Barkin saying this tariff thing is not the boogeyman that everybody thought. And again, inflation will be more moderate than people think. Finally, Barkin, choosy customers could blunt inflationary impact even more. What is he saying there? Well, you've heard me talk about a lot something called demand destruction. That is exactly what Fed President Barkin is saying. Is basically the consumers will refuse to participate, refuse to rip out the credit card. And that demand destruction will lead to businesses having to cut prices. So again, demand destruction is a economic concept that is going to work itself out in practice. I don't know if you guys remember, but Dan Bird and I talked about Ethereum. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, sometimes called ETH. And I don't know if you've checked it, but it is screaming higher. It's about to hit an all-time high. Today it was at 4,700. I think when we talked about it, it was at 3,300. Standard Charter just raised the price target to 7,500. So yes, the sometimes called the silver or maybe the oil of the crypto market is screaming higher. Oh, Scott Bessent also out trying to bearing good karma, I guess. And Scott Bessent said we should be 150 to 175 points lower on the Fed rate. Now, what does that mean? That means we should have 6 or 7 rate cuts. 6 or 7 rate cuts. Scott also says we should start a series of rate cuts, meaning meeting after meeting after meeting. And again, here we go, Scott Bessent. There is a good chance of a 50 basis point cut because the Fed made a mistake in June and July. Looks like the people going for the Fed chair when Powell is out is no longer 4 representatives. It's now 11. Apparently, there are 11 folks in the running. We did get some mortgage app data this today, and it is up again. Refi activity is up 23%. Purchase apps are up 1.4% or 17% year on year. I will tell you there is a yellow flag on the play. ARMs, or adjustable rate mortgages, rose 25% and now make up 10% of all mortgage applications. In my opinion, folks, bad news. Don't forget, folks, if you are a part of my school community, and at this point, why not? You are an everyday wealth builder. You need to be in this community. 67 pennies a day. You're going to get the opportunity to interact with Thatch Nguyen tomorrow, I think at 8:30. And you will get the opportunity to interact with Pace Morby on Sunday. So again, if you want to get around legends, go ahead and sign up for $20. You get to talk to Thatch in Pace. And if you don't like it, cancel. Trust me, you could not talk to Thatch in Pace for $20. And I am giving you that opportunity. To that end, we had 2 people join school yesterday. I may mispronounce their names. It's not intentional. I'm giving it my honest shot. First up, Sarah Vanan. Sarah Vanan, thank you for joining. And Jason with 2 S's. Jason, thank you for joining. And then finally, folks, again, we are hosting our Vegas event. I am looking for my community to step up and make me feel better. I'm hoping to sell 100 tickets by the end of August. It is August 13th. I will let you know that we've sold 54 tickets. We sold 3 tickets yesterday, so thank you. If you want to help reduce the pressure on me, and you're coming anyway, you know you're coming, go ahead and get your tickets, sign up, and I just feel a lot better selling these. Getting close to selling these out early would be great. And then finally, don't forget to give Steadily a chance. We just sent them 6 new policies. Again, when you're getting a quote from Steadily, make sure you're doing an honest compare. It is not just about the price, although the price is very important. What we saw on one of our comparisons is Steadily included $50,000 in dog bite coverage, which I have had one of those over 20 years. And the replacement cost was higher. Again, don't be underinsured. Make sure you are doing apples to apples comparison. So again, folks, give Steadily a chance. If you're a landlord, you know insurance cost is going up and you need good coverage. Give it a shot. If they help you, great. If they don't, hey, at least you know you've got good coverage at a good price. Folks, we will be back tomorrow with the daily financial news. Thanks and take care.